Hello everyone, it's time for another Doc Talk. And today we are going to be doing Some People Watching. We are gonna chime in on Patrick Bet David doing a Jubilee debate against 20 anti-capitalists. I've actually really been enjoying what Jubilee has been doing in terms of getting people to talk. Sometimes they just talk past each other and get caught up in loops. But it's good to see some of these conversations play out. But let's dive on in, shall we?
I worked for scarcity. I think there's levels to it. You have the survival folks who work for survival to pay their bills. Some work for status, some work for freedom, and some work for legacy. The folks that work 3 or 5 jobs, to pay their bills and do what they're doing, if the incentive wasn't there, they wouldn't work 3 to 5 jobs.
This is very true. I know damn well that I wouldn't give up any semblance of free time just because I want to get out of bed. And think about it. All of these jobs that they are doing bring some sort of value to society. Value that they likely wouldn't unless there was an underlying monetary incentive.
Some of the guys that build a bigger business that solve a lot of problems.
The incentive there is either I die or I work. That's not really a system that rewards merit. That's a system that pushes people into insecure positions.
Not necessarily. In many cases, we put ourselves in situations as well. But when we're talking incentive...
Are you saying that it's an individual failure for these single mothers that are working 3 to 4 jobs?
I truly don't want to imagine a world that is devoid of self-accountability. There were so many mistakes made along the way to be a single mother that needs to work 4 or 5 jobs. That being said, sympathy for the situation is valid. You just can't act like responsibility for yourself is completely irrelevant to the system. Selection of a good partner is vital. Choosing to not have the kid could be an option. And is there a support network? Or were bridges burned between family and friends? There's also a lot of options for government assistance. Is it possible to figure out how to receive those benefits?
For some of them, it is.
Interesting.
For some of them, it is.
I'm glad you bite that bullet because most people are not going to say that it's a moral failure of people that are born into poverty that continue to live out cyclical poverty.
We don't have to pretend that this is a moral failure. Most of these mistakes are more practical oriented. People make mistakes all the time, and there are usually repercussions for them.
How are you? What's your name?
Hi, I'm Alana. It's nice to meet you. Okay, so I think the issue is the framing of incentive here. Incentive doesn't disappear in a socialist or a communist society. It just changes and evolves. So we see in capitalism the incentive is obviously monetary gain, maybe even collecting capital itself through land ownership. In a communist or a socialist country, you would see incentive would just evolve into, I know it's a vague term, but the common good.
I can't help but notice that she keeps describing the direction of incentive as evolving. This is a common take by anti-capitalists. There has to be a sort of naivety of human intent. The communist system is one based on a utopian worldview. Incentive for monetary gain is not simply born out of greed. It establishes a network of symbiotic relationships. You provide a service or product that others are in need of, so they pay you with the money that they gained through a product or service. In my culture, this is considered a win-win.
People will be incentivized to do
Give me a case study. Give me a case study of that worked. Give me one case study.
We don't even need to look at case studies. We can just look at charity work.
Well, why don't we actually look at a case study? You got 2 countries, North Korea, South Korea. One is communism and one is capitalism.
Yes.
North Korea's GDP last year was $23 billion.
Are we judging countries' values based off GDP
that's
and not
because
what
that's
they
a
value
job.
for
Freedom of speech. You can't, like,
or...
if you lived in North Korea, you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing right now. You wouldn't have a voice. In South Korea, I'm going to give you stats. In South Korea, their GDP is $1.7 trillion.
South Korea is also owned by like 5 companies in total in the entire
70
country.
times better
you think
than North
that's something
Korea.
If you aren't employed by the top 5 countries, you are practically unemployed in these countries.
Do you like to be free?
I'm not going to be free in a country like South Korea where I'm only employed in 5 companies or no job. Do you like to be free to call somebody out like me? Do you like to be free where you can have a strong opinion? Do you like to be free to have your dreams? I like to be free, but that's why I'm anti-capitalist.
Well, maybe you ought to move to North Korea or Cuba or
capitalism removes that choice. There is no real incentive of capitalism because the incentive is survival. When you get into communism, The incentive is for the common good.
I love that.
It's quite comical that she chose to state that she enjoys freedom, and that's why she wants communism. If you set yourself up well through means of capitalism, you can travel the country in a minivan. Or, if you have a support network, you can enjoy as much free time as you'd like. Communism doesn't allow you to not work. You are forced to work as part of the system. You will be funneled into a skill or system that they believe fits you, and you will work until your retirement. Communism also has no need for specific skills that capitalism could find a market for. You have Instagram vloggers and various artists making a great living under capitalism. A communist society has no need for these sorts of occupations. These skills and passions would be designated as extracurricular to your regular job that was designed for the common good.
If I were to give you your $2,350, which is the cost to renunciate your citizenship, and I paid you your first class, flight to whatever communist country, and $20,000 of spending money,
communist country.
would you give up your citizenship to go to that country? Whichever communist country you want to go to.
Yeah,
Cuba, we can give you
communist
Venezuela,
country.
we give you North Korea, any one of those you want to go to. Choose any one of them, I'll give you a one-way ticket, and I'll fund it for you if you want to.
The last I checked, all of those countries claim to be communist and experienced powerful revolutions based on the theories of Karl Marx and Che Guevara. I don't like when people make the argument for someone they disagree with to go somewhere else. I also don't appreciate when communists deny that nobody has done communism correctly. At the end of the day, these countries failed to hit the mark with communism due to human imperfection. When the state controls the means of production as well as the decisions for the country, then whoever is in charge of the state is in control of most everything. This allocates true power into a few key positions within the government. Here in the US, we have powerful positions in our government, but we also have businesses that have a different kind of power. This makes it extremely difficult for power-hungry people to climb to an uncontested dictatorship.
Hi,
What's your name?
my name's Hunter. I'm
Hunter,
gonna be
good to
honest,
meet
I've
you.
never seen your videos before. Even though there is some real value to free enterprise,
Yep.
the profit motive often creates a perverse incentive and worse outcomes in certain situations. For example, healthcare. How much would you pay for a life-saving treatment for yourself or one of your family members?
How much would I pay for it?
Say you have cancer and you have an 80% survival rate with chemotherapy and less than a 10% without it. How much would you pay? Whatever it takes, right?
Sure.
That's a situation of inelastic demand, when the amount that you're willing to pay is not based on the value of the service, because your life does not have a finite value. In the US, 66.5% of all bankruptcies are because of medical debt. In most other developed nations, that number is way lower, if not zero. And at the same time, the US does not have one of the best healthcare systems in the world. We pay over $13,000 per capita. Meanwhile, Taiwan, which by most metrics has the best healthcare system and a national healthcare service, only pays about $2,500 per capita per year.
So what does that tell you?
That
tells
tells
you
us-
that's wasted expenditure.
Yes, that is a
So
massively wasted expenditure.
That tells you the government doesn't know how to spend our money.
No,
They keep
in our
raising
case,
taxes, we
we're
keep
spending-
more money, and they don't know how to spend the money.
No, most of that money is coming from private insurance. In fact, 77% of the people who went bankrupt from medical debt had insurance and then lost it because they couldn't pay.
Much respect to this young man. He came with facts and an excellent point. The United States healthcare is not the shining example. Now, in terms of skilled doctors, it is certainly one of the best. But in terms of affordability, there is some ground to make up. The inelastic demand that he is referring to is a demand that is 100% necessary, such as a life-saving drug or procedure. It is true that someone could hypothetically set the price at whatever they wanted. Yet, in a free market, another competitor could undercut their price and steal their business. Unfortunately, our healthcare is not free of governmental influence. The government controls around 1/3 of all healthcare spending. The government also sets up assistance programs such as Medicare and Medicaid. Between these programs and insurance companies willing to pay the bulk of the cost, it sets the price line higher than the average person could pay. If this wasn't the case, healthcare providers would be forced to make their prices more affordable, or risk losing out on the majority of their clientele. To solve this matter, a choice needs to be made. Either the system is set up like a normal product or service, similar to how we handle eye care in the country, or we socialize our healthcare. We cannot continue to teeter-totter between both.
How are you? What's your name?
Zena.
Zena.
Awesome. So this claim about incentive is one that we see often promoted by capitalism enjoyers, right? And it's this idea that, profit incentives is the only thing that can make humans do things, get up out of bed every day, which has never been the case. Historically, it's not the case. Psychologically.
Historically, it's never been the case?
No.
What has been the case?
So we've seen...
What's been the incentive?
The incentive is intrinsic motivation.
Intrinsic motivation?
Of course. Have you ever heard of intrinsic motivation?
Of course I have. So you think people are going to go just do anything for no incentives?
The incentive is intrinsic, meaning passion, interest, and honing your skills.
Whether you get paid or not.
Well, the problem is that we're forcing people to, need to, work to survive.
So what's the alternative? So give me another solution, another economical
system. May I finish the talking point?
Yeah, actually,
right,
I'm
awesome.
curious.
So yeah, the psychological theory of self-determination is widely accepted in psychology and basically explains that intrinsic motivation and passion is actually what predicts incentive. You're arguing that incentive is integral to profit-driven motivation. That's not true. Extrinsic motivation, at all times, at every single case, is going to, predict less creativity, less motivation, less skill, etc. Intrinsic motivation is what causes things like technological development. Some of the greatest breakthroughs have been from people who are devoted in honing their skill.
So should they get paid for it?
I think that we shouldn't live in a system that privately owns the means of production and forces people in this position.
What college did you go to?
USC.
You went to USC. What did you major in?
Sociology.
Sociology. Who's your hero as a professor? Who's the professor you look up to?
This doesn't seem like a topic that's related to capitalism.
The reason why I ask this question is because somebody convinced you of that. Somebody convinced you that is the way that
psychology and studies convinced me of this fact about the human mind.
But unfortunately, to your claim, results show that the greatest economical system is capitalism that allows people to go above and...
Now, I won't say that this young lady is incorrect in regard to intrinsic motivation. I'm sure there are psychological studies that show people crave more than either sitting around or making money. Humans are creative creatures and feel rewarded for being helpful to others. However, as Patrick is explaining, human history shows that monetary gain simply drives people to do more. Most of our industrialization, inventions, and architecture were built on the back of profit.
An entrepreneur who gets up, who says,
what was your claim again, mister?
I'm going to incentive. The entrepreneur
what about incentive?
Who has an incentive to go out there and build their lives, and you put no monetary incentive.
So I'm saying that this incentive that you're talking about, what predicts the best incentive, the best drive, and the best creativity
so what do you think about
has
Elon
been proven
Musk?
by psychology.
What do you think about Elon Musk?
Can we respond to my claim?
This is about incentive.
All right, awesome. So you're arguing that incentive is intrinsic and tied to extrinsic motivation. What we find is that the best incentive comes from intrinsic motivation.
So a person that's passionate about solving an issue is going to build something bigger than somebody else that's not.
Yeah, so someone who has a true passion for this.
Yeah, so
exactly. So profit motivation is not the thing that's driving innovation, right?
Of course
psychology.
It is. Of course
so
it is.
psychology proves that that's not the case.
There's not,
that profit's not the reason that we have the greatest inventions that we do today.
Yes, it is true that someone who is truly passionate about something will do it better than someone who is simply paid to do it. However, profit plus passion is the true combination for success. Keep in mind that there are a lot of things that nobody is passionate about that need to be done. This is where monetary gain really takes over. How many people just love plumbing or climbing into hot attics to fix someone's AC? Intrinsic motivation just isn't enough by itself to drive a powerhouse country and economy like ours. Unfortunately, they are just talking past each other at this point. She's shaking her head and restating her point while he's still talking. This does not show good faith for a conversation.
I don't know if I disagree with the fact that there's a passion behind it. Are you saying people with passion, even if there wasn't the incentive to make as much money as they would make, people would still pursue it even with or without money?
That's what psychology says.
Well, your claims are wrong because
that's not true.
Whoever your psychology professor is, If you look at data and you find out how America, that's only been around for 249 years, schooled all the other countries that have been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years more, they did better than others because the incentive
because they accumulated
was free market
profit,
capitalism.
right, to
That's
1% of the population and continue to produce on that
not
basis.
Necessarily. It's
right?
not,
we have this. Okay.
It's
so
not necessarily.
Do we want to respond because you can say that?
You've been interrupting the entire time. So if you're saying about the 1% are the problem and they're the only ones that make money,
that's
a lot of
not
people make money. You said the profit goes to the 1%.
I'm explaining how it is that America has become the dominant power that it is now, right? What we see is that because we have this engine, right, this desire to accumulate profit, we morally justify things like going into other countries, imperializing them, colonizing them, and extracting their resources, right, to funnel our country, right? Social democracies in the Nordic countries don't do this. So yeah, they might not be the wealthiest power, but they have higher rates of education, literacy, human satisfaction, etc.
I really don't appreciate when people sum up the United States' success on colonization or extracting the resources of others. It has been a small piece of an incredibly complex puzzle. Then she tries to claim that the Nordic countries don't do this, and that is why they may be less wealthy. This is quite a wild take on her part. They have been less innovative and wealthy due to all of the reasons we've been discussing in this video.
Right, so it depends on what we actually value in a society. Do we value well-being or do we value profit accumulation?
Validates your point. If that's the case, people would move to those states. They don't. When you judge a great restaurant by the amount of people that come in, you can say the food sucks here.
Yeah,
you can say the service sucks here. But everybody's lined up to want to come here. They're not lined up to go into those countries. They're just used by professors as theories.
There were millions of people that also lived in Germany in the 1920s.
I lived in Germany before as well, for 2 years.
That'll wrap up our little dog talk here. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below and make sure to like, share and subscribe.